This is the Fifth Estate, a conversation between young African scholars from the Fort Hall School of Government and Professor Mutahi Ngunyi. Today, we will write a letter to President Uhuru Kenyatta on how to follow the law. No, we will write a letter to Uhuru on how to become a radicalized fundamentalist on matters legal. And we have been provoked into this by two retired Chief Justices. The two idle judges have reached intellectual menopause. It is obvious. Now they are exchanging ignorance with the public. One of these Chief Judges told us that Kenya will be like Israel of the old under Moses. It will be ruled by judges whether we like it or not. Then he ordered the president to obey the laws issued by the unelected rulers called judges. If this is not intellectual menopause, we wonder what is. This Mzee, who likes to wear an earring, must have been thinking with his mouth open. When men grow old, they tend to shut down their brains and forget to switch off their sound from their running mouth. And that is why we forgive Mzee Mutunga and urge the president to obey the Mutunga laws.
If Dr. Mutunga was once an admired intellectual, C.J. Maraga is as inelegant politically as a village poet or a Mashambani clown. However, in his state of political inelegance, this Maraga man has made earth-shaking rulings. And yes, politically, Maraga has the heart of a lion and the brain of an ox, but this man has created law. Dear Mr. President, sir, please follow the Maraga law. The Maraga law nullified your election, but did not dispute your victory. Then it costed the country 1 trillion shillings. Maraga did not care. And that is why he is still running his mouth in retirement. But there was a piece of genius in the Maraga law. Before he left office, he sent you a notice to dissolve Parliament. However, this notice precipitated a constitutional dilemma. Some say that if you dissolve Parliament, this could trigger a presidential election as well. But if the Constitution is followed strictly, dissolving Parliament would give you an additional 5 years. And that is the genius of following the law as set by a man with the brain of an ox politically. Dear Mr. President, think about it, sir.
Dear Mr. President, we have some thoughts on how ridiculous it is to obey mediocre law, but we urge you to do so anyway. We have 3 ridiculous ideas. If the courts stopped BBI, they also told you that you were free to do the BBI changes through Parliament. This is the first idea. And when you think about it, Article 255 of the Constitution allows you to pass 80% of BBI through Parliament. However, anything touching on devolution has to go through a referendum. In our view, if the judges have decided to rule this country like Israel, BBI cannot happen through a referendum. They will stop it because they can. On BBI, Parliament is the path of least resistance. The most important part of BBI is creating the positions of Prime Minister and 2 deputies. Under Article 255, Parliament can do this. Sir, those things that are good for devolution, but you cannot do without a referendum, you must blame the judiciary. They stopped them. Because you obeyed the law, There will be no War Development Fund. Senate will not comprise of 50% women, and 35% of national resources will not be sent to devolution. All because you obeyed the law.
Dear Mr. President, the second ridiculous law you must obey after passing BBI in Parliament is impeaching Ruto. Yes, the law requires you to impeach Ruto for gross misconduct and unconstitutional behavior. You are being kind to this renegade, sir. The law also requires you to throw out all Jubilee MPs supporting UDA. According to the law, these MPs have resigned from Jubilee by supporting UDA. It is that simple, and you must obey the law. Long story short, you must impeach Ruto in the name of the law. To pass the original BBI in Parliament, you got 70% of the vote. This means you can pass BBI, which requires 66% of the vote. Then you can use these numbers to impeach William Ruto, and you can do it if you obey the law. If Ruto is impeached, maybe there'll be violence in the Rift Valley, and you can obey the law to arrest him if he's the one behind it. You can also obey the law to send him to ICC for trial if he becomes a person of interest. If you obey the law, there'll be no Ruto. Finito.
Dear Mr. President, if you obey the law and impeach Ruto, then you must get yourself a new deputy president to obey the law. And here is how ridiculous the law becomes when you mix it with high politics. If Ruto is impeached, then Raila must become your new deputy president through Parliament. This is the law of high politics. And making Raila your deputy is not inferior if you consider the big picture. That is the third ridiculous law you must obey. If you pass BBI in Parliament, you must also ensure that its implementation is immediate. Instead of waiting for the 2022 elections to create the Prime Minister position and 2 deputies, you must create them immediately through Parliament. Article 255 does not stop you from doing it. What that means is we can have a Prime Minister and 2 deputies by December 2021. And if you impeach Ruto, we can have Raila as deputy president, a man with the head of a coconut as prime minister, with 2 deputies by Christmas. In the meantime, all this is possible because Ruto will have been impeached and BBI will have been passed.
And now, a random thought. Dear Mr. President, sir, Raila Odinga swore himself in as president, but the menopausal judges did not order you to obey the law. They were as silent as death. Fact. And if Ruto becomes president, he will charge Raila with high treason in the name of the law. And Ruto will be right. Raila will be 77 years and he will be forced to obey the law for swearing himself in. Fact. But there is a random way out. The Maraga law allowed Uhuru to dissolve parliament. If the courts declare that this can be done without holding a presidential election, Uhuru can dissolve parliament next year. If he does it and he has Raila as his deputy, then politics will change. With BBI passed, Ruto impeached, and Raila confirmed as Uhuru's deputy, Parliament will be dissolved in July 2022, and a parliamentary election will be held
extending the term of the president, governors, and that of MCS. Also extended will be the term of the newly appointed deputy president, Raila Odinga, for 5 years. And this will happen if Uhuru obeys the law. Then Uhuru will resign and give it to Jacom. And he will leave a Kikuyu deputy president. Dear Kenyans, take it or leave it.